All right, welcome everybody to the third week of our weekend swing trade newsletter. Got a couple things I want to cover this week. Got a lot going on next week, and a lot happened last week. But first thing I want to do, we've got the markets open on spiders are a little bit higher, opened at all-time highs. Like I said last week, we might just keep trekking higher here, keep going. We're kind of just making stair steps here, and so yeah, we could just, we broke out here. It's possible that we just keep going. As far as the NASDAQ is also up in Q. Also up. I talked about last week. I'll be interested in shorting here when we get to this top again. I'm outside today. Hopefully you hear the beautiful birds in Kansas City surrounding area. I'm not actually in Kansas City, but anyway, so NASDAQ's up also. We talked about, if you zoom out a little bit, we broke COVID trend line here, came up, bounced, came down, came up, started to bounce again. I thought we'd come down to the 200 moving average, but we didn't. We ended up going back up, so we might just put in a double top here and then come down. I'm going to try to short here, make this my stop loss, unless it just starts getting crazy, and then we'll figure out a new stop loss. But I think I'm going to try to short here and see if we can just get a small pullback to the 200 moving average, which includes stuff like NVIDIA, that has been driving stuff higher. NVIDIA is interesting. We had this breakout here. Everybody wants to own NVIDIA for some reason. I guess they don't think there's a chip shortage or something. If you look at this, NVIDIA, I believe, is just going to keep going higher, because now we've got a new trend line that we already broke out of. The W here broke out, bounced exactly on the trend line, and we'll just keep going higher. But eventually, I think as we get closer to the split here on the, I don't remember what day that was, but in July there's going to be a split. We might come up, come back down, and if we break this trend line, then we can come back down. I don't know, maybe just retest this prior high, maybe come down farther and test the 200 again. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. As far as I know, everybody calls me a bear, and I'm not going to touch this thing yet. It looks like a perfect breakout, and we'll go to even higher highs. So NVIDIA long, if you want to try to risk it, it's extremely extended already though. But things can stay extended longer than you would believe. So as far as being bearish on the Qs, I think we might have another green week or two. Zoom. Let's take a look at some things. Hold on real quick. WWE was a 20 bagger. Look at this. This was our prediction, right? It went up here. It went ridiculous. It went up to somewhere around, well, it didn't quite get there, so it might still even go a little higher. But what happened was, let me try to delete some of this stuff. I want to show you trader psychology. Trader psychology is really important, because charts, all charts are numerical manifestations of human psychology. And if you look at this, we had kind of a flat top here, right here. We broke out once, pulled back, but it didn't really come down. It just kept chopping sideways. It came down a little bit, Then we got some more steam. It came up here. This one, we also had going for us was this kind of downward trend, and it bounced. So we had that breakout. It wasn't very strong at that time, but it started to come back up. Anyway, here's what's important. We had this flat top here, pretty much. All the sellers, all these short sellers, are all in this area above here. Everybody here wants to sell their shares, and everybody is trying to short the stock. This is their stop limit. I know this because I short stocks often. And what happens is you have a setup like this, and it gaps up over your stop loss. Let me zoom in a little bit. It gapped up over the stop loss of all the short sellers, and immediately it just ripped. And what happened was everybody who was trying to short, everybody who was short right here, who this was their stop loss, all are big time in the red this morning. And so they say, I don't care what the price is, just get me out of this. And so they buy back their shares, and it popped. We got out at like 68, I think. It went all the way up to 70. So 2,000% return. The reason that's important to know is because we also have other setups exactly like WWE. First one we talked about last week, BIGC. Same exact pattern. All of the short sellers, this is their stop loss. If I was shorting this, what I would do is I would short it here and then just ride it all the way down, right? Like just ride it down to zero if I was a short seller. However, I've learned my lesson that in this market, it's better to take advantage of short sellers than be a short seller. So you got flat top again. If we gap up over, we actually broke up here, but then it consolidated a little bit more. So I'm going to say if we gap over 6150 area, which is also kind of flagging, but if we gap over 6150, our 200 moving average just appeared here as 71. So if we gap over here, get in on the open and ride it to 71, you could prematurely buy calls. If we don't break that yet, you could buy a call, make this your stop loss, 58. Make 58 your stop loss if you want to get in on Monday, and just hope that it pops. Like we did on WWE. I figured WWE was going to pop because it was heavily shorted, and all the other heavily shorted stocks were popping, so we got in WWE early. But BIGC is the actual pattern. Get in over 6150. Target would be around 70, 71. Stop loss would be 58. So I'll probably wait and see if we can gap over that, or just buy when we get over 6150. So that way we don't have to worry. We can tighten our stop loss. BIGC is still on my list. A couple other ones that are exactly like that. Snap, we also got in early. Ignore all this. This was someone was showing somebody how to short a stock. Anyway, just ignore that. Same thing. Flat top here. It actually popped, but it didn't really break a new high for this area, so it came back down, and it's just sitting right there. I was hoping, we were in Thursday, and it popped and went up and then started coming back down. I said, get out, it's not strong enough. But I mean, that's a really good pattern. So our target would be these prior highs, 73. So if you want to get in early, you'd have to make 59 your stop loss. Just get in 65 calls, or even 70 calls, or even 75 calls if you're cheap like I am. But we've kind of got head and shoulders now. And again, that flat top, if it gaps over it, just get in and market open. If it gaps over 66, because everybody who's shorting this stock, see, here's the thing, everybody who's shorting it is just like me. They're like, how can you go from $7 to $70 in less than a year's time? That just doesn't happen. It's supposed to come back down, meet the 200 moving average, probably meet here, around $25. Snap should be a $25 stock. They don't even make anything. It's all made up. Internet's made up. Doesn't contribute to GDP, any of that stuff. So what you could also do, wait for it to break 59, short it down to 26, which is what I'll probably do if it doesn't break. So 66 and above, buy calls, target 73 area. Same thing for Crocs. Crocs looks pretty interesting. Had a huge pop on huge volume to break out of this consolidation, which means it's probably going to keep going higher. And now we have a buy setup. Buy setup popped and then came all the way back down, but it's still going in to fill this. Whenever you see a green topping tail, 98% of the time it'll refill. It might take a while, but if you want to buy leaps for whatever the top of that is, like if you find one and it put in a big green topping tail last year, buy leaps for next year and it'll fill that back up. But anyway, again, we have a flat top on the daily. Looks beautiful, just like WWE. Same thing happened here. We had a flat top, it gapped up and it took off. So you could have got in on the open, rode it up. I'm planning on the same thing happening here, and 108, 110, above 110, it'll probably go to 120, 130, possibly. So Crocs and Crocs stiletto. Look at this. This should make you buy Crocs right here. I mean, stilettos, Crocs stilettos. Can't get my video to load. But oh yeah. Look at these beautiful things. That should make you buy Crocs right there. Look, Snow White's got them, or Cinderella, whoever that is. Crocs, CROX, same pattern. And the reason I'm talking about these is just because they're such big winners. It's worth putting on your watch list. APH, same exact thing. However, it's kind of at all new highs or all-time highs. And just like Apple is a similar pattern, but we bounced off the 200 moving average twice. So over, it's starting to curl up. We got a lot of red. When you got a lot of red in a row, then you're just due for a green day anyway. So let's say APH over 69 or over. This one was a slower mover. We could probably just get in 70 calls at 68.75. We'll probably just get in on Monday, make this our stop loss, really keep it really tight, because again, if we break here, it'll probably come down and we can even short it. So we got a nice channel going here. We break above it, big calls, below it, puts. Last one, PayPal, PYPL. PayPal is similar, however, it is a bank stock. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. I'm not as interested in PayPal, but it is a similar pattern. We kind of have this area here where every time it gets above it, it sells off. So if we get over, all these short sellers are right here. They're just shorting it hardcore right here because they know it's just going to keep going down. So over 277 area, we'll get in calls, or you could get in calls now, but you'd have to have a bigger stop loss, 260 stop loss. and your target will be the all-time high 310, 309, which may be pretty dang profitable. I don't know if it's going to move that fast, but again, it went from 225 to 310 in just a couple weeks. So I mean, if you wanted to swing this and not just try to do the overnight gamble, but if you want to swing it, you could swing it up to 310, get 300 calls or 290 calls, and just hold it for through July. The only problem with that is, okay, so those are Snap, Crocs, APH, PayPal. Another one Kelly was talking about was SE, same pattern. Now we've got flat top. If I were me, I would short it underneath this bar here and ride it back down to the 200. However, if it gaps above 280 or 285, then it could just rip and give you another 20 to 1 winner. So SE also. Banks. So what we did, XLF, on Friday, I got in a little early because we haven't actually broken it yet, and I was trying to just be cheap. But I believe that XLF is overdue for a correction through price. Our first target is very small. We're in 34 puts. Our first target is 36.50. If we don't break 36.50, then we just exit. Our second target is the prior highs, which would be 35. But I believe it's going to come down like this and meet the 200 and be in the 32 area. And it may even come down to these other ones because it's never fully corrected. And like every other stock in the market, you still have this unfilled gap down here at the bottom from election night. And again, 90% of the time gaps fill. So I would expect in the next year or two to correct at least down to pre-election levels. And people are like, stuff cannot fall that hard. There's no way. ICLN was one that I'm short in my own portfolio because I don't believe in clean energy yet. But it got up. It went from nothingness to 33 really fast and came down. And I believe it's going to keep coming down. It's below the 200. It bounced off the 200. It's going to keep coming down. But all these stocks that are like 900 million % high, they're going to come down. It might not happen this year, but they all come back down and test prior highs. They always do. Stocks don't always go up. I'm getting too long again. So XLF banks, if you also look at, so we're short, we're already in 34 puts for XLF, I believe on the monthly or the weekly. We're going to come back and retest 32. It might even come down to this 31 area. So that's why I'm in that. If you look at banks, JP Morgan, looks like it's tipping over on the daily and the weekly. They all look like they're starting to fall over. Bank of America, they're all starting to tip over, and they might just keep going. You never know. But this has been a crazy year. What I believe is that these stocks, here's Bank of America, should come down, bounce off prior support and go higher, or at least go to here. But what I think is all these short sellers, they look at 2009 and think, oh my gosh, stocks are going to go to zero. Let's just go all in. And so they went all in on everything. And then we bounced, and this entire year has just been a short squeeze, a market-wide short squeeze. And that's why it feels like stocks only go up. I mean, they're ridiculous record highs. because we thought everything was going to crash like it did in 2008, but it bounced. And now all the shorts are trapped. And that's why all these short squeezes are happening on all these stocks, because these short banks are getting margin calls and all this other stuff. So anyway, eventually the world will collapse and everything will crash. But for now, it might keep going higher just because everything's being short squeezed. But XLF, JP Morgan, BAC, GS, any bank stock is, in my opinion, going to correct through price. I've been trying to short SQ for a while. SQ is, we've kind of had this uptrend here, broken, came down, retested. We're above the 200, so it might bounce and put in another W. But I would expect once the 200's broken again, then we can start coming back down. And SQ, I like short. But if you short XLF, that's all the banks, and that's, you just have to worry about that. You don't have to pick each stock. I don't know. We got into silver because I'm anticipating a move. When we bounced off the 200 on the US dollar, that's pretty strong indication that we're going to keep going. And with everybody talking about inflation, as inflation goes up, the US dollar goes down. Purchasing power of the US dollar goes down. And that might also explain why stocks are going up, because they're cheaper to buy because of inflation. So I expect the US dollar to go down, so you could short UUP under here, or we already got in SLV just because it is also, and it did it one time before, but we also kind of have this flat top, and it's going up, it's going to break and just keep going. They're saying like $150 by 2024 for silver. So we got in a little bit early, just hoping for like a $50 move. It's sitting on the 200, so it might go to $50 by the time our options expire. I don't know what else to talk about. Two actual breakout stocks, BSX. This one I thought was going to take off, but we had a downward trend. We actually came down below it, but we closed above it on Friday, so I expect it to continue. So you could get into 43, 44 calls with the potential to 46.50, 46.75 area, or just all new highs. This is one that hasn't fully recovered from COVID yet, pre-COVID dip, so I assume it is also heavily shorted and might just rip from here and just, who knows, $60, whatever. GPRO is a new one, but same pattern. So GoPro, if you look at this one, we should have got in it earlier, but I didn't notice it until this weekend. But we kind of broke out of this pattern, and now we've got a flag showing up here. So above 1265, you can get in calls, and yeah, ride it to wherever. So that's about all I got this week. I'm kind of dragging on too much, but Snap, Crocs, APH, PayPal, SE, BSX, GPRO are all on my watch list. I joked about Express today. It might be one of my lotto ones because it's also kind of flagging. If we can break this downward trend, we could see another pop to 14, so that's on my watch list. Funko, everybody's talking about, oh, short squeeze there, but actually I'm going to short this one. We have kind of the opposite going on here. Breakdown. So FNKO, under under 20 under 2288, 2275 area. We'll get inputs, and I mean, I don't even know what they make. I think it's like toy dolls or something, but we've had a big sell off here, big sell off here. I expect a big sell off here, so we'll go back down to, I don't know, whatever, a couple dollars. We'll short FNKO, and the last two, FEYE let me down. It was a nice one. I thought it was gonna just rip, but it sold off overnight. It held the 200. Now it's back up. So if we get above 2150, I'd like to get back in 24 calls. FEYE, and same pattern. SIEN is pretty much the same pattern. So we'll just get in 9 calls. I think that one's a cheap one too. So we'll get in 9 calls there. With the potential, now that we're at the bottom, this could be another iTub, and just ride it up to $28 in the next couple months. I don't know. Anyway, that's about all I got. Snap, Crocs, APH, PayPal, SE, BSX, GPRO, FNKO, and EXPR, and SIEN, and FEYE, and I will post all of that in writing so it doesn't get lost. I was going to talk about data stocks. I think they're the next big bull market, especially these dead ones. Data.io, I got in shares. It's only shares, no calls. I got in here. It came down. I actually added here when it retested, and now we're up 667. I think it closed, but again, I like it because of the potential move it could make in the coming months. So eventually I'm going to put out a video of a bunch of stocks that are just shares that I'm invested in long term, and I'll probably do that next week. So anyway, I'll post all my entries and see you guys later.